I just had a power cut and it literally everything just came back now. All my energy just came back. So I've had good, my heart is beating very fast, which is perfect for this. So yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, to explain, so my name is Bilal Zafar. I am a professional stand-up comedian. Um, I I did a media degree, media writing and production, it was called, like a similar thing to I think a lot of you that are watching, and we'll get to all of that. Um, but yeah, well, so basically, I mean, okay, what happened was I was in my last year of uni, I began to do stand-up comedy, like open mic is what you have to do. It's very, difficult, it takes ages. Um, and I stopped doing any work basically. And it was all going quite well for me, but then it was around kind of uh I guess around 2019, 2020, a lot of things started to kind of I guess go wrong. I had lots of buzz around me. I had lots of great things happening, lots of meetings about potential TV shows and all these things. And then it all just kind of went away quite quickly. That it can happen, I guess, in a lot of entertainment and media stuff, especially in comedy. And I was in a position where I was only really being approached to do work based around like my race and religion. And that's like, not that I'm against people doing that, but that's not what I got into comedy for. And it's all relevant, all of this. Also, something with comedy and I guess a lot of theatre is that the audiences that you get are always going to be, well, mostly going to be a certain type of person. What I mean is that if you do you might have heard of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I call it the world's biggest art scam, but anyway, um, there's the Edinburgh Festival, and then you can do tours around all these venues around the country, but it's all very expensive to attend. Like the Edinburgh Fringe, for example, it's getting more and more pricey. They put the price of hotels up and things, so it's yeah very expensive to actually just attend as a punter now, let alone an act. Like it's very difficult for comedians that basically don't have rich parents, is what I'm trying to say. So I was in a position where I was almost about to agree to do, well, I was about to agree to do a couple of taster tapes for TV shows, and they were the sort of thing I did not want to do at all, but I really felt like I was in quite a bad place in terms of my career. And then the pandemic hit, and all of that was, of course, gone, and TV has suffered massively. And, like everyone, I was in a position where didn't know what we were doing, didn't know how long it'd last for, right? Um, and as a comedian, I was like, okay, what can I do? Because there's a lot of comics that sort of went and did things on Instagram. Well, a lot of creative people did stuff on like Instagram Live, which I was never a big fan of. Things like Periscope, I don't know, I don't think that exists anymore. Things like Facebook Live, which is I don't know what the point even like if unless you just want to do a show for your cousins, you know what I mean? Um, and then I came across Twitch. There's a comedian called Limmy, who some of you might be aware of, who basically he only does stuff on Twitch now, and he convinced me to give it a go. But he said, don't dip your toe in. He said, make sure you actually go for it, right? Um, Now to explain what Twitch is quickly, if you don't know, it's a website that's a bit like, I guess, a bit like YouTube, except that it's live. Everything is live streamed, and it's mainly people playing video games live. And if you're not familiar with this is a thing that's just very popular now. And if you don't get it, it's hard to even explain, really. But people are very into watching a streamer play a video game. They'll be in the corner of the screen like this, and they'll have a game on the sort of main screen there. Um, and that's a massive thing. So I did that a little bit. Oh, I should say as well, there's a program called OBS. That's what I'm using right now. And I'm going to show you more of how this works and stuff. It's not just going to be a black screen, don't worry. Um, Things like OBS, like this program is free to download. And it's quite a bit to get your head around at first if you don't know it. But once you learn it, it's very, very useful for a lot of things. Similarly to how like you might use, I don't know, if you do video editing like Premiere or Final Cut or whatever, I think OBS is like just as useful. So it's always worth learning, especially free programs like this. Now I was doing basic gaming and stuff. I mean, it's amazing. We just had someone who works for CD Projekt Red on because I'm a big fan of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk, and I was streaming games like that and I was enjoying it. But I had this idea. I'm a big football fan, and don't let that put you off, please, because you don't, for what I'm going to talk about, you don't have to be a football fan at all. I'm a big football fan, and I used to play. I still do, but when I was little, especially, well, when I say little, about from the age of about 13, I was very into football games, right? Um, Part of the reason for that was when you do like a career mode on a football game, what everyone does when they play these games is they imagine that they are the character of the manager, basically. So you're imagining you're doing team talks and things. But no one probably talks about this, but it's all kind of there, right? So it's like it all exists there for you to create a story. So I had the idea that I would play a football game, but I would basically I wear the top. I'll show you in a minute, but I wear the top half of a suit, and I am the manager of the club. Right. The game was Pro Evolution Soccer 5, which is like a retro, very, very good football game from 2005. And I was the manager of a made-up team in the game called Pez United. It's a bit of a cult thing because they have all these like made-up players, and yeah, well, I'll get into that a bit more. Um, so yeah, so that was the basic idea to show you how it kind of worked. So I mentioned before, like I would be in the corner here, playing the game. So I'd have my controller just off screen. I'm playing it, but I'm reacting to it like I am the manager. That's how that basically worked. And with a green screen, you can do anything, right? Like so, for example, post-match interview, right? So after a game do a little post-match interview, and we've got the live Twitch audience, and of course I'll get into how they all that's the point of all this, right? um Usually I guess it's all right. The thing is with this, right, I've been doing this stream solidly since 2020, so there's a lot, so I apologize if I sort of am a bit all over the place. The character of the manager that I play was like he's kind of a sort of no nonsense British football manager who like basically a caricature of a lot of things that I don't like about football. So I was able to satirize a lot of that. So I'd after a game I'd come on here, do a team talk about how, all referees, we should bring back the death penalty for referees, frankly, that kind of thing, right? That's the sort of character I am when I do that. I've got my dressing room to do team talks. Whenever I'm doing a team talk oh, I should say as well, you would never see my mic ever. I actually have a little lapel mic, which I hide under my suit, right? You wouldn't see this because that, of course, wouldn't make sense in the world. I'd be doing a team talk. I'd cut to my players occasionally. There they are. Um, what else do we have? We have, yeah, the post-match interview. I have my office. This is where this is where I am most of the time, and I'd have meetings with players. Now these two little screens as well, I should say, they're supposed to be little TV screens. What they are is, let me see if I can actually make this work right now. Where are we? Oh, my thing isn't even working properly, is it? It's not. I can't do it right now. But the white box is a live text of my audience. So like anything they say pops up in there. And the little black box is any like you have emotes on Twitch, like emojis, anything that anyone presses, that pops up in there and floats around. So that's like a nice little additional thing. Now, I should say the way that it works is that everyone that watches the stream, I say this to them all the time because there's always new people coming in. Anyone that watches is automatically a manager, sorry, an assistant manager of the football club. So they get a say in certain things, right? Like in terms of things like formation and stuff. In fact, I'll show you if I go back here. Um, One way that I brought the audience in was there's a feature called a hot seat, which actually Limmy, who I mentioned before, uh, he actually made it himself. The hot seat allows you to let someone in the audience basically their text will show up on the screen, just their text. So what I do is when I'm doing a team talk, I have is this the right one? Yes, I'd have someone that's me doing a team talk a while ago, and someone would say basically whatever they want, and Iniesta's lung fell out of his eye. I don't even remember what that means. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But that was an amazing way to involve people. having them do team talks and also having a say in formations and stuff like that. Also, oh, what was the other thing? As well as formations, people could, oh, that's it. I would often do a poll on Twitch, which I can't show you on this screen right now, but the same way you would do on Twitter or whatever. In the chat, you pop a little thing in like, should we, like, oh, like for a substitution, I'd say, like, should we bring this player on or this one? Everyone in the chat gets to vote, which again, it's just such a good way to involve people because the whole experience is live and it feels so fun, for the whole thing. I mean, doing these streams is absolutely exhausting because I'm in character the whole time. What I forgot to mention was the way that it all started was initially I was doing, I basically had these little post-match things that would pop up after a game, slag off the referee or a decision that went against, whatever football managers do, the most ridiculous stuff. Um, but when it got really interesting was the first time I had a meeting with a player because basically it was just me all the time. And then, like I showed you in my office, all I did was give a voice to one of the players. He would, I can't look. I'll get to why he's wearing a hood and everything. I'd give a voice to these players and I'd literally just have a meeting with them, right? And in that, you can create, as soon as you have characters, of course, you can create any story you want, right? So it started off very simple. I think the very first like storyline I did was about how there's two strikers and one of them felt like the other one was never passing him the ball. And that's what the whole thing was about. And then it became like I had to have kind of therapy sessions with them where they'd explain their side of it. And again, the audience all are very involved. They get a say in all the things, and they even get to speak to the players, all of that stuff, right? I can show you as well. No, I don't have any sound on these clips, right? Just because I only have sort of 30 minutes to speak. So I didn't want to, excuse me, I didn't want to take up too much time with video, but just to show you the sort of thing, right? Just to show you how the whole thing looks and how it all works. This stream, like, okay, because I was doing this in lockdown, I had nothing else going on at the time. Like my agent said, "Oh, it's a good time to like write a script or something," right? But I was depressed because of the pandemic, right? So I wasn't feeling motivated in that way. But to do this stream where it was live and you knew that there was an audience waiting for you and everything, I was able to do stuff like this. So here you can see again, I'm sorry, there's no sound, but there was a whole story this stream, right? And it's about this player called Dodo basically being disrespectful to me. And you can see me talking about this post match and stuff, saying that, I have to say to the press, there's no issue. Everything's being dealt with behind doors, behind closed doors, there's nothing going on. This player, Dodo, kept disrespecting me and undermining my management, right? So throughout the stream, I forgot to say, a stream, I used to do it for about an hour and a half. Throughout the whole thing, he's undermining me more and more. He's saying that I shouldn't be the manager of the club, right? And he's saying all this stuff. Something crucial about Dodo. He's our captain. Well, he wasn't our captain yet at this point because we weren't getting on. He's the captain of the club, right? And that's because he's a hard man. There's this whole thing in football about hard men of football. It's really stupid. It's like you hear, if you know football, people like Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira used to basically get red cards for acts of violence. And for some reason, a lot of people think that's like really cool and respectful. So that's something I kind of mock a bit. So he's that kind of player. And me, my manager character, he's just called the Gaffer, by the way. He was the same kind of guy when he was a player, right? So him and Dodo are kind of similar. And so basically, let's see, where are we? So that's me and Dodo having an argument. We lose the game. I blame it on Dodo, of course. This is where it really kicks off, by the way. This took a lot of work. This took a lot of work, but like I say, I had a lot of time during the day at this point. Me and Dodo, right, getting very angry at each other here. And I say to everyone, go back out, go train or whatever. Me and Dodo are going to have a chat, right? It's coming. I don't want to skip it in case we miss it. Here we go. I had to animate that, right? So me and Dodo could have a fist fight in the dressing room. Then we actually managed to win a game. What happens at the end of the stream is what's happening here is that we've both battered each other. That's why we both have nosebleeds and everything, right? But by this point, we respect each other so much because we're both hard men in the game, right? So I'm very proud of it because it's really stupid. Oh, and also we had a press conference at the end where me and Dodo are both saying that the nosebleeds and everything and the broken ribs, nothing happened. We just both fell down some stairs, you know. And I accidentally break a bit there and laugh. That gives you an idea what the stream is and what you're allowed to do in it. Like I was saying, I'm very proud of that stream because it had a proper story to it. You know what I mean? It had proper Jeopardy going on because nothing like that had ever happened before because the audience knew me as this hard man, the character, who doesn't take anything. And then this player started mouthing off. And can you imagine like when I had the fist fight happen, this was like peak lockdown. Had hundreds of people watching at this point. They don't know what's coming, I do. I've got it all set up, on the OBS. I was absolutely buzzing, and the fact that I managed to pull it off and it all kind of went smoothly, I'm very proud of that. And I did a few things like that, a few story bits that had kind of a set up and payoff. Of course, it wasn't you couldn't kind of do that with you couldn't do that with every single stream. Like now it's still going. The reason that I'm a bit all over the place, right, when I talk about this is because since I think it was April or May, maybe May 2020, I have done almost 200 of these streams. Okay. We're actually coming up to stream number 200 in a couple of weeks, in maybe a few weeks. Obviously, anyone watching, you're welcome to join and become an assistant manager. Twitch is completely free to watch. The thing is, you can subscribe and give the streamer money if you want, but you absolutely don't have to. I'm sorry, I've got a very dry throat. And that sort of brings me to the point that I was making earlier about my point I was making earlier about audiences. Because in stand-up comedy, it can be, what I'm trying to say is I grew up working class, right? I couldn't afford to see me now in a lot of these places. Like I'm going on tour soon in London. I perform at a place called Soho Theatre. I don't even know how much the ticket prices are out of my hands. Sometimes it might be as much as 15, 20 quid. Who can afford to get babysitters if they got kids and all of that? You know what I mean? It can really price working class people out. A lot of like live stuff, basically. But Twitch is completely free, you know. You pay a little bit if you want. Obviously, YouTube as well, stuff like that, a lot of online stuff. It's completely free. And then as soon as I started doing it, it changed my life because you realize the audience that you're reaching completely changes. And suddenly it's like you're performing to people that are more like you know what I mean? I'm just going to open a can of Coke. What happened was, right, I had a power cut and I was absolutely freaking out that I wouldn't make this on time. And there you go. In terms of how the world of it has grown, or how the audience can be involved, Discord has been absolutely brilliant. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Discord. I have my own Discord set up for my Twitch viewers. My Twitch community is a better word. I shouldn't have done that. It is a community. I've had, like people when okay, I've done some very strange stuff on this stream. I know it's already looked quite weird, but it's been a lot weirder, right? And something I've been very proud of is that I've been able to do stuff in the stream. The story's been able to go so weird that I've incorporated like twists and turns and stuff, which has had discussions. So the community has had discussions about what they think is going on, which for me is just so much fun because obviously I know what's going on. Um, Excuse me. Um, One thing, I'm just trying to be wary of time. Okay, we've got, when did I start? Okay, yeah, we're fine. Sorry. Um, um, in terms of something else I've found brilliant with this because this world now exists, you can do so much more with it. Like for example, I have a Patreon, basically you put stuff behind a paywall. Excuse me, you can put any type of media there. It's a really good way for people to support people like me that they like who aren't sort of, really famous or whatever. Um One of the things I'm doing on there is the Gaffer's autobiography. So I'm writing an entire autobiography for the character, literally from when he was like how he got into becoming a footballer in the first place and then got into management and all of that. But it's all done in the very, very silly tone. What I wanted to tell you was the places I've taken this have been so weird. Like, okay, I had my 100th stream a couple of years ago, I guess, and I had to do something very, very special, right? Now, I had been watching a lot of David Lynch at the time, as I really like him. I love Twin Peaks and all of that. And I was quite inspired to do something quite weird. And you can really, I mean, I could have actually, I suppose I could have incorporated some more of the weird effects and stuff I could have shown you. But there's lots and lots of clips on my YouTube and everything if you want to find it. Um, on the 100th stream, basically, I had a storyline where, okay, one of the characters who is called Shimmy, one of our players. Um, where is he? I can't find him right now. He's a weird little guy, basically. Okay, that's what his character is. Um, he always had a teddy bear with him. Now, I did a thing where whenever it cut to Shimmy, I was building something up basically. I was building a story thing up for like a couple of weeks. It would cut to this character and his teddy would start speaking to him. Okay. Now I can't hear it, as in my character can't hear it. The audience can obviously hear it, and Shimmy can hear his teddy talking to him, and it's just like a demonic like whisper. I might have even had you can get all sorts of free programs that sort of change your voice live. So I think he had a kind of demonic voice, right? And he was whispering to the player. He was saying, "Kill the gaffer." He was saying, "Shimmy, kill the gaffer," and he was telling him when to do it as well. So I'm carrying on like, well, blah blah blah, and the audience all know that one of my players is plotting to kill me. Okay, we got to the 100th stream. We had like a big, we have our football matches and everything. We had a big like awards ceremony, end of season party type thing, and then everyone knows it's coming, right? And that player pulls out a gun. Of course, I had a little gun sound effect, and he shoots me. As soon as it cuts back to me, so you very easily cut away and cut back the way I've been doing. Cuts back to me. I had some fake blood spray, very good stuff, by the way, and I'd sprayed a bit on my shirt, and I've been shot, right? This is all happening live on the thing. And then what I did with the story is that it did like a weird I did like a weird basically I had a visual thing where it was going back through all of the 100 streams very, very quickly with like kind of sad music. And I woke up in the very first stream I'd done. So basically I've changed my like office and stuff. I've changed it a lot through the last sort of 4 years. And it went back to the very first one. I got up, as the montage was happening, I got up and got changed and wore the same kind of thing I wore on the first stream. You know what I mean? And that's when I had ended that stream right there, and I had the audience, the community, discussing what had happened and the theories behind it and everything. Um, I realize I don't actually have that long left, right, before we have questions. So what I want to say quickly is, right, I didn't realize I actually thought I thought I was going to have more rambling time, right? But I've kind of almost run out. What I want to say is I did a media degree, like I said, media writing and production, it was called. It was at the University of Bolton, which is how I know Krishna and Anna as well. Was my tutor a while ago, about just over 10 years ago. Now, what I want to say is, I mean, it's an awkward thing. I don't quite know. I don't, sorry, let me get out of the office because this is important. I'm trying to figure out like the sort of best way to say this, but basically, I want to make the point that it's very important that obviously you work hard on your degree and everything you're doing. But what I'm trying to say is I stopped doing any work at uni. I'm not saying you should do that. I stopped doing any work in my final year at uni, right? Because I started doing open mic comedy and it wasn't good the way I dealt with my degree and stuff, right? But I just about graduated with a third a third class degree. I know, right? The reason I'm telling you that is because there are people that I studied with who got firsts who did not do anything after that. So in terms of media, and my job is this stuff. Like I do all sorts of stuff now, right? You don't have to obviously do stand up like I've done and all of that, but there's opportunities out there. There's things, even if you have to create it yourself. Yeah, that's my point basically. Also, also, what else? I just wanted to say like with creative ideas, you really don't have to overthink stuff. Like I always found that I was always scared of approaching creative stuff in a way because a lot of like technical language and stuff would put me off and make me think like even things like when people go on about structure in scripts and stuff, that would always just make me feel scared, you know what I mean, of actually doing it. I just thought it sounds too hard. Like I had that with stand up as well, where when you hear comedians talking about stand up, which they can be very annoying, a lot of the American ones especially, when you hear them rambling on about how tough it is and all of this, it makes you feel like you could never do it. But it's just not the case with anything. I wanted to make that point because I kind of wish I knew that when I was doing my media degree. Also I did want to say like I did want to quickly say that if you look at, I wanted to say the quality of stuff, don't overthink the quality of things. Because if you look at, like, this is another clip, right? Which I don't have time to talk about, but well, yeah. But if you look at the kind of quality of it all, like, look at the dressing room, look at, like, if you look at, I'm trying to show, like, the play, look, he's not even, that player who's supposed to be doing a press conference there and me, we're not even quite in the right position for it to look real. Do you know what I mean? Like like don't worry too much about getting technical things right. You can start with very basic things as long as you have a good story. If you can make it funny, of course, that's my thing. I always, I say go for it. Um yeah, I've run out of time, right? I've run out of time, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't want to overrun. I hope that was okay.
That was really interesting and yeah, fascinating actually. Obviously, I've spoken to you about it before and sort of followed you a bit, but it's great to get more behind the scenes. So there's a few sort of questions.
Yep.
First one is mine. Are all audiences the same at a basic level, or is digital different?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. That's a good question. Let me think. It's kind of hard to answer. I think it's definitely different on a digital level. The thing is, I get asked quite often like what I prefer out of like stand up or streaming and what's harder or whatever, but they're very, very different things. Um, because being in a live environment is completely different to watching something at home. Like it just is like the energy. Like that's one of the reasons why a lot of the time when people watch like stand-up specials on Netflix and stuff, they might think they're not very good because that's just kind of not how you're meant to view it. Whereas this stuff is designed to be watched at home. Also, I think the thing with Twitch is it's like it's not like attending a show because a lot of the time people will watch. I think actually a good way to describe what Twitch is, a lot of people will kind of have it on like a radio show, if that makes sense, like kind of on in the background and then focusing in when something interests them. Like Limmy, who I mentioned before, he streams like I think for 4 hours on Monday to Friday. And no, like a lot of people are not sitting there watching that for 4 hours. So yeah, I think the audiences are quite different just because I think it's just a very, very different, you know, different discipline. It makes a massive difference. Yeah.
A lot of people have stuff on in the background whilst surfing the web and checking email and doing social, don't they? And
Yeah.
then as you say, they kind of dip in. It's a different, like as you say, it's kind of slightly different. I mean, it's almost like two screening on one screen in a way, perhaps.
Yeah, and like I do want to eventually combine the two. Like that's my plan. I did try something that you'd find interesting. I did try a thing which was like a live show that was streamed, but it wasn't like just me doing stand up. It was like a friend of mine who he's also a lecturer, but he has access to all sorts of equipment. We basically had like a proper three camera setup, but it was being streamed. And then we had like a big screen behind us and a projector showing the chat and everything. And I was trying to combine the two. It's very hard though. Part of the thing is that people that watch Twitch don't really go out, I think. So a lot of them just didn't come to the thing. Most of them watched it at home. But yeah, it's very yeah, I'm quite like fascinated by the two things, definitely.
Well, you did mention to me last year that Robo Bingo, which I didn't manage to
Oh
go and
yeah.
I still want to check that out because I think that's a bit more has a bit more kind of immediate interaction, doesn't it? I think.
It does, yeah. So people that don't know, Robo Bingo is it was a show that I saw in Edinburgh. It's two guys, they're called Fox Dog Studios. They're very, very funny. And their shows that they do are absolutely incredible. Basically, what you do is they're both on stage. There's of course a screen. You go along, but you have to be on your phone. Well, you have to like join their Wi-Fi network, and then you play along. So the Robo Bingo one, it is a game of bingo, but obviously it's not really. There's a whole story and there's all sorts. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, they've done great.
It sounds to me, look, the way you described it, like a live room accompaniment to something like Jackbox games, which are quite like Jackbox stuff, if you've seen that.
Yeah, yeah. But I like the idea of people being able to watch at home as well, because obviously for accessibility reasons and stuff, and just people being abroad, not everyone can always make everything. And there are lots of people trying, like, I think there are comedy clubs that also live stream their shows and stuff like that. But even that is very difficult because it's not just about putting a camera at the back of the room. You've got to really have the sound being recorded properly. Like, that's such a crucial thing with stand up to have the audience mic'd up, and I think it's quite difficult. But I think we're definitely, yeah, we're going that way, you know.
Yeah. Okay, next question is about the assistant managers. I know
Yeah.
you said that there was a thing that was possibly an invention or something, but I mean, for you, was that a natural progression, or was it something that just kind of came up that you thought, I've got to try this?
I think it was natural to be honest, because when you're doing a lot, okay, something quite weird about Twitch is like, you have like, and you have this on sort of YouTube Live and all of these platforms. There's really, really big famous streamers that have tens of thousands of people watching live. It's crazy. And when you watch them, the chat just moves at a ridiculous pace, and you can't read a single, like, there's no point of even joining in. But I think like if you've got a couple of hundred people, or even you could even have like 1,000, like to involve them is just so exciting. Like for me, it really feels like the future. Like I think of Twitch as like, especially because a lot of people do watch it on their TV and sort of use the chat function on their phone. It's a bit like watching a TV show, but the show talks back to you. It is kind of like a Black Mirror thing in a way. So I think just naturally trying to involve them was always just fun. And something that is has been amazing about it actually that I forgot to mention is the way that everyone just immediately got into character and has stayed in character. So they accept that they are the assistant managers. I do a lot of it is quite satirical. So the gaffer character, like his politics are, a bit all over the place. And everyone kind of agrees with him. But it's obviously ridiculous. Like you wouldn't believe any of it is real. But I absolutely love that aspect of it. I think I that makes it so fun. Like, and there's kind of a running joke with they keep asking me when they're getting paid. And I go into a long thing about like, well, look, at the end of this financial year, we got to have this and we have to take this into account, but you will get paid, but the money will go back into the club first. And it's just this whole there's just that's why it's hard. I find it hard to talk about because there's so much and there's loads of stuff that I wanted to talk about that I didn't have time. It's like the world is massive now.
Yeah, yeah. What else? What else? What else? What else? Does this kind of do you find this kind of crosses over with social media as well? I mean, obviously that's part of your
Hmm.
kind of online stuff, but does stuff happen there, or is it really a sort of conduit to get people to Twitch, do you think?
It definitely does happen there a bit. Okay, so one of the things is that the way that I initially got attention in the first place partly was people like Limmy and a few other comedians that have a huge following very kindly, shared my stuff, and that was obviously I'm very lucky. But apart from that, it was putting clips on Twitter, so 2-minute clips, like the one that I showed where I have a fight with a player. Those would tend to do quite well, especially in lockdown, so that brings more people in. But also you do have that thing where I will sometimes just be in character on Twitter as the manager. So I'll be like ahead of a big stream. I'll just copy what actual football clubs do and be like club statement with the club fake club badge and stuff and put out a thing. But it's obviously very like weirdly written and it's full of grammatical errors and it's quite inflammatory really. And yeah, because we have a hooligan problem obviously, but the manager never sort of holds them to account. He kind of lets it happen, all those sorts of things. So yeah, there's definitely been an element of playing along in character online. I could have even created a separate account for it, to be honest, but just being me is it just works. So yeah, it continues on there. Yeah.
Cool. Um, okay. Just out of interest, do you have any kind of real world models for your manager, or would that be giving the game away, so to speak?
What do you mean?
Like real life football managers that you like
Oh,
stuff on.
well, it's loads of them. Like because it's kind of just all the ones that I find annoying, really. Like I can just literally, it's quite fun. I can just say word for word what a certain manager has said, and it's just really funny because the people that get it. Um, like there's all sorts of quotes. Like there's that whole thing that who was it? I'm sorry if this was in front of an audience, they'd be shouting it out. But there was that manager who said, "I would love it if we beat them. I would love it." You have these clips that are like really famous. Um, there was one. There's the current Sheffield United manager comes out with really really odd things where I'm pretty sure he called something woke, which didn't make any sense. And like that's just always quite funny to me. So it's based on a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, like I was saying, like it allows me to satirize so much of the stuff I find annoying about football because I am a big football fan, but the sort of kind of circus around certain things sometimes can be just so stupid.